Last year, when everyone was getting ready for Halloween, my friends and I gathered at my house for a sleepover. The lights were dimmed, and we decided it was the perfect time for sharing ghost stories. My friend Anna spoke up, her eyes reflecting a strange fear. She wanted to tell a story about her parents' first date. She didn't like telling it because it wasn't just a story, it was real. We egged her on, eager for a spooky story, so she started to tell her story. Anna's parents, Sarah and Tom, had their first date on a chilly autumn evening. It was both pleasant and a little awkward, as first dates often are. As the night was coming to an end, Tom, an adventurous man and an avid rock climber, suggested they take a midnight walk up Pine Hill. He knew the area well from his many climbing adventures. Driving up to the hill, they parked their car near the trailhead and started their hike, guided only by the twinkling stars above. It was a new moon night, and the path ahead seemed to vanish into the darkness. As they walked, Tom suddenly felt a strange unease creeping up his spine. He looked at the dark path ahead, winding under the shadowy trees, and felt a sense of alarm. But he brushed it off, choosing to enjoy the walk. A few minutes later, the uncomfortable feeling returned, stronger than before. But again, he shrugged it off and walked on, Sarah by his side. Then, just as they were about to step into the shadowy trees, Tom's foot bumped into something soft. He couldn't see what it was in the darkness, and that strange feeling of dread hit him harder than before. Sarah, feeling the same tension, agreed with Tom when he suggested they should leave. Without looking back, they rushed down the hill, leaving the mysterious soft object behind. Fast forward to several years later. They were married by then, sitting together one night, watching a documentary on TV about the infamous criminal, Ed Barker. As Ed described a particular event when he had felt most likely to be caught, a chilling realization dawned upon them. Ed narrated how he had lured a victim up to Pine Hill and was about to escape when he heard some people approaching. He had hidden in the trees just in time to see a man walk right into his victim's dead body and stepped on it, then inexplicably turn around and leave. Hearing this, Sarah and Tom stared at each other in stunned silence, their minds returning to that unforgettable first date. It was then they realized what Tom had bumped into that night, and how narrowly they had escaped a potentially horrifying encounter. Anna finished her story, leaving us all in stunned silence. The tale was not only spooky, but filled with a sense of dread and a chilling realness that made us all shiver. That night, as we huddled closer, we felt an eerie chill creeping up our spines, forever imprinting Anna's tale into our minds. I heard a spine-chilling story that still gives me goosebumps. It didn't happen to me, but to my cousin Jake. Let me tell you what happened that night. It's a true story that will make your heart race. Late one Friday night, around 1 a.m., Jake was chatting with his girlfriend Lily on Skype. They were having a pleasant conversation when Lily suddenly asked Jake to come over and stay the night at her place. The idea didn't sit well with Jake because driving that late made him uneasy. But he didn't want to disappoint Lily, so he hesitated for a moment. As they continued talking, something caught Jake's attention. He noticed the closet door behind Lily was slightly ajar. It sent shivers down his spine, but he brushed it off, thinking it was nothing more than a trick of the light. However, the unease lingered in the back of his mind. Time went by, and they carried on chatting, trying to ignore the mysterious crack in the closet door. About 30 minutes later, the door creaked open a bit more, causing Jake's heart to skip a beat. He couldn't believe his eyes. He pointed it out to Lily, thinking her little brother must be playing a prank and hiding in the closet. To Jake's surprise, Lily denied it. She quickly came up with an excuse, saying the window was open, and it must have been a gust of wind causing the door to move. Jake wanted to believe her, desperately searching for a rational explanation, so they continued their conversation. But as time passed, the unthinkable happened. The closet door swung open completely, revealing a figure stepping out of the darkness. It walked silently across Lily's bedroom as if unnoticed by her. Jake's heart raced, and a cold sweat trickled down his forehead. He had just witnessed something inexplicable, something that made his blood run cold. In a panic, Jake blurted out to Lily that her little brother was hiding in the closet. However, her response terrified him even more. Lily calmly stated that she was home alone that night. The realization hit Jake like a bolt of lightning. His mind raced with fear and concern for Lily's safety. Without wasting a second, Jake shouted at the screen, urging Lily to lock her door and call the police. He assured her that he would rush to her house as fast as he could. In the midst of their conversation, Lily finally turned and saw the closet door wide open, just as Jake had described. Fear consumed her as she sprinted towards her bedroom doorway, letting out an ear-piercing scream before slamming the door shut and hastily locking it. Jake's adrenaline surged as he jumped into his car, frantically dialing the police on his phone. He sped towards Lily's house, his mind filled with worry and a determination to protect her. When he arrived, he noticed that the front door was left wide open, intensifying his concerns. With his heart pounding, he raced into Lily's house and burst into her room. The sight that met Jake's eyes was harrowing. He found Lily curled up in the corner, still in a state of shock. She was pale, her eyes wide with terror. Jake rushed to her side, trying to comfort her as best he could, but the trauma had taken its toll. Finally, the police arrived and swiftly entered the room, breaking down the door. Their arrival offered a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. She whispered her chilling account to the officers, describing a face-to-face encounter with a mysterious person who stood at her bedroom doorway before she managed to shut and lock the door. The incident left us all shaken, and the mystery of the intruder was never solved. I was 7 when we moved into the old Baker house, a mysterious building that had been standing for more than 100 years. I got the top room, the one right under the roof. It was an odd space, like a secret little nook tucked away from the world. It wasn't meant to be a bedroom, more like a storage area or maybe an extra part of the attic. Before we moved in, the Bakers had used it as a playroom for their kids. So, my new room came with its own special feature, a gigantic closet door leading to the attic. It sat high on the wall, reachable only by a creaky wooden ladder. Behind its massive sliding door was a world of forgotten toys and childhood relics, filled to the brim since my baby years. Living so high up in the house was thrilling, but also a bit frightening. I felt isolated from my family. The vastness of the closet, looming in the corner of my room, only added to my fear. But I was 7. I was supposed to be brave. One night, after watching a spooky movie with my family, I climbed the stairs to my room, my mind swirling with eerie thoughts. As I lay in my bed, eyes wide in the dim room, I heard the sound of a toy falling in the closet. My heart pounded, my small body frozen in fear. I bolted from my bed, dashing into my parents' room, babbling about the noise. They reassured me and told me there was nothing in my closet. Seeing how scared I was, they let me stay with them for the night. The next night, all was forgotten until the sound came again. This time, louder, as if a whole box of Legos had toppled over in the closet. I ran to my parents again, but my dad was losing patience. Nonetheless, he allowed me to sleep in their room one more time. The following morning, my mom and I investigated. There, lying on the closet floor, were scattered Legos, just like I'd heard. I was convinced someone had been in my closet, but Mom reassured me, insisting it must have just fallen over. That night, my dad locked his door, tired of my ghost stories. I lay awake in my room, imagination running wild, straining my ears for the slightest noise. An hour passed, and then it happened. The closet door slid open. Moonlight spilled into the room, revealing a shadowy figure standing by my closet. A scream erupted from my throat, pure terror gripping me as the figure leaped from the closet and dashed out of my room and down the stairs. I could hear my mom rushing up the stairs to me, my dad running after the figure, but he was gone before my dad could catch him. The police never found the man who had hidden in my closet. That experience, the terror, the fear, I remember it as if it happened yesterday. Even now, I always check the closets, no matter where I am. When I was just about 13 years old, our school organized a special journey. They named it the Louisiana Trek. It was a grand adventure, traveling through the heart of southern Louisiana and exploring its rich history and fascinating landmarks. One such spot was the renowned Magnolia Manor, infamous for being one of the spookiest places in the whole country. Now, rumors buzzed like bees about this manor, tales of eerie happenings that would give you goosebumps. One particular day, while visiting the manor, our guide led us into a large, antique-laden room. As the guide started to share another of the manor's mysterious tales, a strange sound tickled my ears. It was a soft, rhythmic sound, like the gentle tap of a piano key. At first I thought I was just hearing things, but the sound repeated, clear as day. I scanned the room, but there was no piano in sight. Curious, I turned to my friends, Sammy and Jake, standing close by, and whispered, "Do you guys hear that?" They shook their heads, their faces mirroring confusion. I tried once more when the sound came again. "Listen, there it is again!" But they heard nothing. They thought I was pulling their leg, so I resumed my search for the mysterious sound's origin. As I was looking around, a woman in the corner of the room caught my eye. She looked at me, pointed to her ear, and then at me again. It was as if she was asking, "Do you hear it too?" I nodded in surprise. I wasn't alone. Just then, our guide started to weave a tale about a soldier who had once lived in the manor. He used to play the piano, and after he died, guests would often report hearing the ghostly echoes of his piano playing at night. My heart fluttered like a bird. Could it be the ghostly soldier? I didn't know what to believe. I still don't. After the tour, I chatted with the woman. She heard the same piano notes I had. However, her husband and son, like Sammy and Jake, hadn't heard a thing. And so, the mystery of the Magnolia Manor and its ghostly piano player stayed with me. It's a story I often share, with the haunting melody echoing in my mind, a chilling reminder of my unforgettable adventure in the heart of Louisiana. Once upon a time, in the small town of Hartwood, there was a tiny library in my school named Cherry Bloom Elementary. The library was quite famous for being open until midnight for those forgetful souls, just like me, who always left their homework until the very last minute. Although the library was not grand, it had a special section known as the Secret Stacks. This was a big, quiet basement packed with old books. It had a large staircase that led down to the entrance, a small room for snacks, and a long, mysterious hallway with 4 big doors that opened into the secret stacks. The stacks were 2 giant rooms filled with tall bookshelves and cozy reading nooks. Last year, when I was working on a challenging project, I found myself in the secret stacks late at night, around 11. I had chosen a comfortable desk in the corner so that I could do my research without having to run up and down the stairs every few minutes. After a couple of hours, it was just me and a boy named Max left in the library. We were both working diligently on our projects when a strange noise disrupted our silence. It was the sound of pages from a book flipping rapidly, creating a loud whipping noise. At first I tried to ignore it, hoping whoever was making the noise would stop, but the sound only grew louder and more persistent. Unable to bear it any longer, I decided to find the source of the noise. Just as I got up, the flipping sound suddenly stopped. Feeling relieved, I went back to my desk, only for the noise to start again after a few minutes, but much louder this time. Max, who was also irritated by now, joined me in the search. As we got closer to the noise, we realized it was coming from the very end of the bookshelf. Max and I slowly made our way toward it, Max on one side of the shelf and me on the other. We reached the end, but there was no one there. Confused and a bit scared, we returned to our desks, hoping it was just the wind or a faulty fan. But no sooner had we sat down, the flipping sound started again. This time, it was right next to Max's desk. Without a word, Max grabbed his backpack and ran out of the secret stacks. I followed right behind him, my heart pounding in my chest. To this day, I still don't know what was causing that noise. But one thing's for sure, I've never dared to go back into the secret stacks at night, even when there are other people around. And that, my friends, is the mystery of the flipping pages in the Cherry Bloom Elementary Library. When I was still a captain of a little fishing boat called the Merry Mariner, I had a spine-chilling encounter that haunts me even today. My wife Emily and I were looking forward to our 2-day voyage in the open waters of the Great Blue Sea, starting from the peaceful Sunshine Harbor. Our adventure started beautifully. We spent the first day collecting a handsome haul of fish, our net bobbing with the weight of our catch. As the sun set, we retreated into our cozy boat cabin, playing our favorite game of Snap, our laughter dancing to the tune of a soft melody from our old radio. Everything changed the next night. With no catch to celebrate and no music to keep us company, we were playing cards when a strange sound interrupted the stillness, a boat motor chugging in the distance. We hurried outside, and there, bobbing like a ghost ship in the pitch-black sea, was a shabby little motorboat. The only occupant, a middle-aged man with a scruffy beard and a worn-out baseball cap, stood in the weak glow of our boat's deck light. I approached him, asking if he was in any trouble. The stranger asked for some spare gasoline. I apologized, saying we didn't have any, and offered him a ride back to shore. But the man just shook his head, insisting he had enough fuel. Emily and I exchanged puzzled looks. If he had gas, why did he ask us for some? A strange silence fell. The man's blank stare at me made my skin prickle with unease. Suddenly, he broke the silence, asking about our day's catch. I replied that we hadn't been lucky. I tried to keep my voice steady, despite the growing sense of unease. The man chuckled when I asked how he navigated in the pitch black. Then, with a curt, "Nice meeting you, folks," he drove his boat back into the darkness. We felt a cold wave of fear wash over us. Emily, her face pale, confessed she was afraid the man might rob us. I felt the same unease. We had met plenty of fellow seafarers in our travels, but this encounter left a cold knot in my stomach. To ease our fears, I decided to navigate a bit further north, disappearing into the darkness. It was around 2 a.m. when Emily's terrified scream woke me. I bolted upright, my heart pounding, only to see a figure at the foot of our bed, the man from the motorboat. I lunged at him, but he slipped out of the cabin before I could reach him. I heard the familiar chug of his motorboat retreating back into the darkness. We didn't waste any time and sped back to Sunshine Harbor, our hearts heavy with fear. We reported the incident, but no one ever heard of that strange man again. To this day, I still wonder what he wanted from us, what his plans were.